So hi, I want to welcome everybody to my virtual cup of coffee. And today I'm talking to my friend, Paige Fingerhut Charnick, who's a local realtor here in the LA, Orange, and San Diego counties. She is a co-owner of Beach Equities, which is a real estate company here in Long Beach, California. So hi, Pam. I was going to call you Pam. Hi, Paige. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
I know. I feel like I haven't seen you or talked to you for at least 5 weeks since
I know.
quarantine.
It's been a while.
I know, it's crazy. What I like about Paige is she's like always posting positive, informative things on her Facebook and on her Instagram account for her company. So Paige, what's some good news that you can give my clients who are going to be watching this video about the real estate market today?
Yeah, I do actually have some good news. And I think it's nice to hear a little bit of good news instead of all the doom and gloom right now. But even though it's like a little bit of a rocky ride right now, all of the economic data is pointing to what's called a V curve, which is a really sharp recovery curve, which means it is like a long, sharp ride down, but then it's going to be a fast ride back up. And so all of the major financial institutions like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and there's a couple more, they're all pointing to that sort of V-shaped curve, which is really positive. It means that while Q2 is going to be down, Q3 and Q4 are supposed to rebound up pretty quickly and pretty strongly. And so that's fantastic. But also just so that's like sort of national news. But in our local markets, I'm based in Long Beach, but we serve Orange County, and we actually serve San Diego County as well now. We're seeing things go into multiple offers. I'm representing buyers right now that are, ready to move forward because they're able to still get a great interest rate. And, some homes are not in, there's like not 20 multiple offers, there's maybe 3 multiple offers. And so it's a little bit easier for them to move forward. So, and that's really good for sellers and for prices. We aren't really seeing prices soften. There's a little bit of a saying that is a little bit cheesy, but it's kind of accurate. So I'm just going with it. And it's basically, if it's compelling, it's selling. So, if the home is really dated and there's better homes on the market, that home is still probably sitting, but that was probably true before COVID. So now it's more important more than ever that, people are getting virtual tours and things like that. Photography is really important. I realize I'm like jumping off of the good news, but it is good news. So, but basically
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say with that photography, people are getting these Matterport tours now, which show you, they're a 360 view of the room and you can kind of click through. And so what I've been telling my clients is like, we're going to get you a Matterport tour and that's going to let a buyer walk through the home. But it also means they're going to see everything. So
every flaw, every great part of the house.
They'll see
the houses that are currently selling, are they like in a particular price point? Are they particular neighborhoods? Maybe some neighborhoods aren't as popular, or does it just depend on the house?
Well, one of the things we're telling everybody right now is everything's a customized approach. So it's not a one size fits all answer for everyone. Obviously, good neighborhoods are still good neighborhoods, right? But that's more a question that ties into lending right now. So lending has really tightened. And I know people are seeing news lines like Chase is only taking borrowers with 20% down. That hasn't even been vetted yet. I'm not even sure if that's true. But those are like the articles that are being posted. So in terms of price point, conforming guidelines in California make a conforming loan $510,000 and $400. And what that means is that when you're under that threshold, you can still get really good pricing. So if you're putting 20% down or even less down, but you're still under that 510 threshold of a loan, you can still get good pricing. So I would say homes that are under like 700, they're still selling really fast. Once you get over that conforming loan limit, you need people who have the cash to put down to make up the difference because they're going to try to keep their loan at that level. What a couple of my realtors and I have been, my colleagues and I have been discussing is that price point that's sort of like $900,000 to $1 million, up to like $3 million. That's being hit a little bit harder because it's harder to get good loan pricing right now. Mm-hmm. But even once you get past that 3 million mark, which I know is not like it's not your average Joe, but there is still a luxury market. We're in California after all, so there is still a luxury market. And, we deal with trusts and estates that have, large amounts of property and value. Once you get over that 3 million mark, things are moving again because what's happening is people where they have the cash, they're not worried about that so much. They're seeing the world on sale phenomenon. And even though things aren't really on sale so much, it's a little bit easier for them to get, more land or larger property. So that's a long answer to your question, but it's more a question of lending than like a neighborhood or it's a price point consideration.
Yeah. Well, you do a lot of work, especially for my office, for probate and trust administration sales. So with those types of cases, as you know, people don't have the luxury of holding on to those assets, right? So you might have a conservatorship or a trust administration where they need to sell because they have to generate cash to pay for a person's care. Or you may have a probate or a trust where they need to sell the asset because they have to liquidate it in order to make the distributions to the beneficiaries. Are you finding that more of your private clients, for lack of a better word, do you find that your private clients are questioning more whether they should hold on to the property and sell later, whereas your probate or your executors and your trustee clients might feel more compelled to sell even in a bad market because they have a certain duty, they have certain time constraints where they have to, report to the court about why they are not selling or why they're not closing an estate?
Right. So it's a little bit of both. I would say certainly more of my trustee clients are moving forward with the sale. They have a fiduciary duty to do so. But there are a few of them, like a private trustee, a professional trustee, fiduciary. It depends. I have a few of them. One I'm thinking of in particular in San Diego where there's really no expenses on this house. Like they were considering renting it out versus selling. And so they actually are going to wait about 2 months. They're going to wait for the summer. But they're not the norm. I would say for the most part, especially the regular executor, the regular family member executor that's not doing this as a profession, they're moving forward. Just the sheer length of time to get into court, to get, their filings done, selling the house is just one piece of it. They've got more. And then if we don't get it done for them this year, then they've got to do another tax return the following year. Like if we don't close the sale for them in 2020 and the house closes in say January of 2021, then they're looking at a tax return in 2022. It just drags the whole process out for them. So, so we're selling things. I was telling someone it's kind of funny right now. I have two main cases that, one is this large estate in Coto de Casa that I mentioned to you that is like a $5 million purchase price point, but the drain on the estate is so large to maintain that property, maintain the loan, maintain the grounds, it's in like a fire hazard area, like all of those expenses. We have to sell it now because we're just draining the estate, especially with the stock market the way it is. But on the flip side, I have a house that's listed for $350 in Linwood. That's a complete hoarder house. And we're basically selling it to an investor as is with all the stuff, just moving forward. And we did cut the yard down, and we had a gardener out there to showcase the lot, because the lot was a lot of the value. So it's going both ways, but we're very much keeping the client's goal at the forefront of everything we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a balancing act. I mean, as you know, like you might have an estate, like you were talking about, that has a lot of expenses, and they have to sell. Let's say there's a reverse mortgage on the house, and the reverse mortgage is going higher and higher, reducing the equity. So they have to sell. I mean, we both don't tell our clients, you must sell because you're the executor or the fiduciary, but
right.
You have to balance it. You have to figure out what the expenses are, what can the estate afford. And sometimes you have to sell a property, maybe not at your dream price, because that's what's in the best interest of your clients. Yeah. So what forms or what steps are you realtors taking in order to protect people who are trying to sell their house during COVID, and then protect the buyers who want to go in and see homes during this COVID?
So that's an awesome question. So there's a lot that's changed. I don't have my mask and my gloves to show you, but they're like now part of my staple attire. I also have booties. Luckily our board sells all. Yeah, our board sells all that. And right before this all started, I went and I hoarded some booties. The things you need, right? So
a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do.
Pretty much. So now I have this bag that I take with me everywhere I go. And I'll get into the forms, but I've assembled, like, basically I have a box of gloves, and I have the booties, and I have Lysol, and I have wipes, and I just have a bag that's like my go bag now. And it has all of those things that you need. And I'm going to refer to my notes real quick, but basically one of the forms that came out is called, and it relates to all of that stuff, it's called the PEAD form. They all have these letters, and it's the Property Entry Advisory and Declaration. So now there's four new forms, plus actually two more for tenants. And the four forms for a real estate transaction, before anybody even sees the home, they fill out this form, and it basically says, you're representing that you don't have any symptoms. Within the last 14 days, you haven't been in contact with someone with COVID-19. You don't have a fever. You don't have signs of a cough, shortness of breath, etc. And you understand that persons may be afflicted with COVID-19 and not exhibit symptoms and not be aware that they're afflicted. You're basically saying, I understand there's a risk to entering this property, right? Mm-hmm. And the form actually protects everybody. It protects the seller, allowing somebody in the home. It protects the buyer entering the home. It protects the real estate brokers coordinating it all, because it's basically saying we acknowledge the risk, right? What I like about this is that now, showings used to be a free-for-all, and you would pretty much have to let everybody in to expose, particularly in probate and trust, to expose the property. Now, everyone's working by appointment, and we're spacing out the appointments as well. Well, that's not required, but my brokerage is doing that. We're spacing the appointments out. We're trying for 48 hours if we can, because the virus dies on surfaces at that point. But some of the other forms, there's an addendum to purchase contracts that basically says, like, we understand the state of the world is different right now. This is the one the attorneys don't like. This is the one that you're going to reject. But in regular transactions, it's good. In probate and trust, not so much. But it basically, gives sort of like a blanket statement of, like, we understand you might have to cancel. We understand you might have to extend your loan contingency.
No, we don't like those.
Yeah. It gives the buyer an extension for everything.
Right.
So yeah, I don't like them either. But when I have the buyer, then I really like them. So, and they are good for sellers too, because for regular sellers, probably not probate and trust, but a regular seller, if you think about it, if they're selling their home for whatever reason, maybe it's a job transfer. I mean, honestly, that's still happening right now, even though this, market's crazy. But if you're selling your home for whatever reason and you become sick, you don't want to leave your home. You can't move. Like, So it gives people kind of like a wiggle room out. It's like everyone's going to act in good faith until we can't. And then you have to prove like a COVID reason. So those are two of the forms. And then the other one goes along, it's called the RLA CAA. They all have these abbreviations, but it's the listing agreement coronavirus addendum. And it basically, talks about best practices. It gives consumers a website for best practices, which I'll actually just tell you right now. It's carcovidupdates.org/best practices guidelines. I know that's long, but that's kind of the California Association of Realtors site that we use. But the listing addendum says, we're going to enter your property for inspections, appraisals, city reports. There could be fumigation. There could be a final walkthrough. It just sort of notifies the seller of everything that's going to happen at that property, and marketing and all of that. And then the last form, the fourth form, is called the NUCC, the Notice of Unforeseen Coronavirus Circumstances. It's kind of like a notice to perform in a normal transaction, but it's like, there's like a couple different boxes. So it could be a loan related, like you're canceling because of loss of income. It could be stay at home or other government order that says if the government orders change while we're in the middle of an escrow and you can't leave, or you've been personally impacted, like you now have the virus or things like that. So it's basically like you're in a transaction and now we're giving you a notice that something has changed. So those are the four forms that have really changed my business entirely right now. For the most part, I think they're good. I think the California Association of Realtors has really responded well.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah. So, and there's some tenant forms too, if you want to hear about those, but.
Oh, maybe we'll do another video on tenants' rights, because that's going to be a huge issue when this is all over and people are going to start unlawful detainer actions and whatnot. So that'll be a crazy time.
Yeah.
So, you've been doing probate and trust sales and a lot of real estate for a while. What are some mistakes? How about your top 3 mistakes that you see people doing with regards to their real property? It can be a real property mistake. It could be an estate planning mistake. What do you see the most of?
I would say I have a couple things. So probably number one that I am seeing right now even is people panic and then they want to add their kid to their deed, right? They're maybe in their 60s and they're like, I want to make sure my son or daughter is going to inherit this property, so let me add them to title. Yeah. And that's actually a really big tax mistake.
Amongst other things, yeah. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Yeah, I was like, oh, you put your child on title? No, stop! Don't do that. And sometimes you have to undo it after the fact, but it causes a lot of problems. As you know, you were going to talk about the capital gains tax issue, right? Like in the event they want to sell the property in the future. From my perspective, it's the child is on title with mom and dad, and then mom and dad want to sell the house, and child won't agree to sell the house. Or worse yet, the child will expect a portion of the proceeds, right? So it's not the best thing to do. And then also, what if your child has legal problems? They're being sued and somebody gets a judgment against them. Guess what? That creditor is going to go after that piece of real property. They don't care what their interest is in the property. They're going to go after it and try and satisfy that loan. Or lien, rather, not really loan. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
So I think that's number one. People always think to do that, and it's not good. Consult your attorney. Consult your realtor. Consult somebody who knows what they're doing.
It's like a regretful mistake.
Yes. And then I would say the other thing, and this might just be like a piece of advice. While everyone's home with nothing to do, I know everyone has a lot to do actually, but one of the biggest problems that we encounter in general is all of the personal property, like everything you own. And unfortunately, it usually ends up in a landfill in the trash when we go to sell a house. And so I would really encourage everybody to pare down their belongings. Now, I don't know what's happening right now with the cities. Normally you get like 2 free pickups a year. And I should have checked that before this call, but I didn't. And every city is probably different anyway. But normally each city offers like 1 or 2 free pickups each year. And I would look into that. And even if you have to like put everything in one spot in the garage, like have it ready to go, I would really encourage people to get rid of things. That collection that you think is worth thousands, it's probably not. I mean, it's like, it's the advice no one wants to tell, but I tell people because, you know, it's like people think it's like insulting their stuff, you know, and it's really not. Right. But what's going to happen if you are not here or alive and well to take care of your things, your kids or somebody assigned from the court is going to be in charge of those things, and they're not going to want most of it because they have their own stuff. So they have their own stuff. They don't have room for your stuff. So ultimately it ends up in a landfill, and I'm usually the one facilitating that, and it makes me sad every time. But that's probably a good piece. It's not so much like a mistake, but it's, you know, something I think people could do right now.
No, I agree, because there have been times like when I'm working with a client and they want to give their, I don't know, Hummel Collection to their kids. And my first question is, do they want the Hummel Collection? Or is there somebody that wants that collection? And if there's somebody that wants that collection, then give it to that one person, as opposed to, you know, letting them fight over it, or like you said, you know, give it to a dump or landfill or pawn shop or garage sale, estate sale, and selling it that way. So like, no, I totally agree with that, because a lot of times it's more sentimental value than monetary. And then they run into, you know, hiring an estate salesperson and realizing that maybe the cost of the sale is equal to whatever proceeds they get from it, which is also sad. But at least in that situation, somebody buys it that actually wants it, and maybe might enjoy that dining room table that you guys have had for, you know, 30 years.
I was going to mention dining room tables are it. Like, they are the thing that people always are like, they're going to want this dining room table. They don't. They really don't. So I think this is a good place to be able to say unequivocally, I'm not hurting anyone's specific feelings about it, and maybe it'll help somebody.
Yeah, it's just for somebody to think about. You know, I totally agree. It's more emotional than monetary for the most part. I mean, you've probably seen fights. It's not necessarily fights about the estate, well, those exist as well, but people fight over the silliest thing. You know, like that popcorn bowl that they used to eat popcorn with their grandma. 5 grandkids want it. Or, you know, that blue vase that grandpa bought for, you know, their mother. They want that. It's like, but that is worth like literally $3 at a garage sale. But they're willing to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars sometimes to argue over it. It's just crazy. But that's their prerogative, you know.
I had a case where they were fighting over these faux Tiffany lamps. They weren't even real Tiffany lamps. They were just... Oh my God. Yeah. And I remember I had to carry them from I had to take them from the property to the attorney office, and they sat there for a long time until it was decided what was going to happen.
Well, they fought over them probably for the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. Crazy. So I guess that's the other thing I would say is that, and we both might see this in both of our businesses rising, is, I mean, I'm seeing more gray divorce, as they're calling it. And with quarantine, divorce is expected to spike too. So, but the issues are the same in trust and estate matters. It's like families fighting.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that might be on the rise too. But what else? I made a couple notes about problems I see. I was like, clean out your house. Estate sales are happening online. Don't put your kids on the deed. And then, here's the other one I wrote down. I wrote down, ask for referrals for all these things. Like estate sale planners, they're doing estate sales online now. You need a good CPA, like all of those professionals, like ask us for, our referrals, because they're going to be the ones who actually can help you. So
yeah, because you guys know good plumbers, painters, electricians, carpet guys, tile guys, all that stuff. And I know some of my clients have relied on your referrals for that, and it's always worked out really well. And most people want to be referred to another professional rather than going on the internet or Yelp or what have you. Are you finding that people are not titling their real property in the name of their trust? They've gone to their lawyer, they've created the trust, and then when you guys pull up the deed to sell it, it's not in the name of the trust. And it's not so much a big issue when husband and wife or single person still alive. It's a problem when mom passes away, son's now the trustee of the trust and goes to sell it, and you guys have open escrow undoubtedly, and your title people pull up the deed and they're like, who's Mary Smith? Because Robert Smith here is trying to sell his mom's house. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's very common. And in fact, I did a Facebook post when this all started, and I was like, I'm here to help. What do you guys need? And one of my past clients called me, they're a young family, and they were like, we don't know if our house is in our trust. And I looked for them and it wasn't. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I think people are worried about getting sick right now, as they should be. And now would be a great time. You have to fund your trust. You have to put all your assets into your trust to protect yourself.
Signing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Signing it at the attorney's office in front of the notary is just not going to do the trick. Right? Yeah. We tell our clients that all the time. Like my office, we handle all the real property deeds. If they're in California, we prepare it, record it. Yeah. Or if you're out of state, we have attorneys all over the country, and we'll call them up and say, hey, we have a client with a trust and some property in Louisiana, North Dakota, or whatever. And we'll just ask for the cost, and whatever the cost is, we pass it on to our clients, and we make sure that it's all taken care of, because those usually tend to be the most valuable assets that people have. And God forbid, if it's not in the trust, you may end up in probate court, maybe not through a full-blown probate, but you're still going to end up in probate court for maybe at the very least a one-time Hegstead petition. Yeah.
Right.
Which is costly too, which could be avoided easily by a deed.
Yes. Simple. A deed is much cheaper than a whole Hegstead petition.
Right. Exactly. Or a full probate, especially here in California. We all know how expensive that is.
Yes.
So do you have any other good news you want to impart? Anything else you think that would be helpful to anybody watching this video?
I guess
we've covered everything.
We've covered a lot. I guess I would just say every situation is custom right now. So there's no blanket advice out there. You really need advice specific to your situation. Because they really, we can talk all day about scenarios, but you really need someone who knows you need real advice. And then this is less positive, but I just want to get it out there. Sorry. It's important though.
I thought we agreed to end on a positive note. Come on.
I know. We can still circle back. I just want to warn everyone the scam artists are out there. And the Department of Real Estate just issued a warning, loan mods and all that kind of stuff. Those scammers are out there. So I just want to warn everybody about that. But no, overall, I think things are really looking up. I think we've covered so much information, but there's always more. And I would just say to really, for anyone who has questions about their estate, their trust, real estate, and get a true professional to help you. That's like the best advice I can give.
Agree.
But I think
even pre-COVID, after COVID, everybody's situation is different, and it's easy for you and I to speak in generalities. But I totally agree that if you have a particular question, talk to your estate planning attorney, your realtor, maybe your unlawful detainer attorney, whoever, just somebody that's who's well-versed in that particular area to give you good advice, because what works for your neighbor or your brother-in-law is not going to work for you always, because your situation is very custom to you. So I think that's good advice. I like that.
Yeah.
think we should end on that note. What do you think?
All right. Yes. Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this video with me. I appreciate it. And I know that I will talk and see you hopefully soon.
Hopefully very soon.
Right.
I hope.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, say hi to your partner, Steve, who is also one of my favorite people in Realtor.
I will.
So hopefully he's doing well. Right.
Yes.
Thanks, Paige. Talk to
Thank
you later.
you. Bye.
Bye.